All right, we here with Jarrett Lockhart, Bronx, New York representative, New York High School state champion, Mount St. Michael's High School all-time leading scorer, nearly 30 years after graduation, might I add, Big East basketball alum, and Bronx Basketball Hall of Famer, Jarrett Lockhart. Man, how you doing today this morning?
I'm good, man. Yeah, good to see you. Good to be here. I appreciate you guys coming, man, and looking forward to talking to you today.
Most definitely, man. I appreciate you allowing us to sit down with you, man, and talk with you as well. I want to start with where were you born and raised at, boss?
I was actually born in Switzerland, right? Fribourg, Switzerland. My dad, we got a long basketball history, but my dad was drafted by the Milwaukee Bucks back in the days, back in I believe it was the '76 draft, like the 5th round.
Right.
Back then when they had all those rounds.
Right.
So he ended up being like the last cut when they went to camp. And then he took my mom overseas to play professionally, and then obviously I was conceived. They had me, and their relationship didn't work out, and then we just ended up coming back to the Bronx soon after. But that's where I was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't have really like much memories as a child?
Not at all. I've been over there a couple times. I mean, since over the years, but no vivid memories or stories or anything like that from growing up, because we came back to the Bronx soon after. Yeah.
It's one of the strongest passports on the planet.
Definitely.
So what was it like growing up in the Bronx as a child?
I was, I'm from that Marble Hill section of the Bronx, 225th and Broadway, 1 and the 9 train. Granddad grew up in Marble Hill projects. My dad did as well, and then I followed, after Pop. But it was, I think, it's once again, it's not the most craziest or violent neighborhood in the Bronx, but it's still the Bronx, right? So I think, you see things, obviously, you deal with certain people, and I think the Bronx in New York in itself grows you up fast.
Yeah.
So, I saw some things, but I think the sports kept me out of trouble, right? That's one thing, and then it kept me on the right path and introduced me to a lot of good people. So, obviously I did grammar school, I did, high school in the Bronx as well. So just growing up in the borough, I think it makes you stronger, because like I said, you see things. But I think, basketball wise, I was able to stay on the right path just because, I had some good people, some good mentors that entered my life as well. So, I saw both sides of being a kid and a teenager growing up in the Bronx, but I think the sports, obviously pushed me, steered me right in a positive direction.
Got you. What were some things that your parents instilled into you growing up? And obviously you came up in the 80's and 90's, so it was super rough in the Bronx. One of the hardest places to grow up in America. So what were some of the things that were instilled into you and you were told to like steer clear of growing up?
Yeah, I just think, back then, I think, like we're talking about the late 80's and early 90's, man, it was just, everybody was kind of, we use the term now a lot, but outside, right? So, obviously no social media, stuff like that. So you had to go places and experience things. But I think when I got old enough to travel, that's when, and then travel, I mean, just take the train or the bus, or, go somewhere by myself. Or my first venture was just going, being on one side of the street and mom saying, no, you can't cross the street, right? So that was one of those things, you couldn't cross the street before like 10 years old.
Yeah.
I waved to my mother out the window, like, no, stay right there. So, but just, I think, mom's, obviously Pops was, where he was at, but Mom just instilled like discipline. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. So anybody that knows growing up and being around your grandparents a lot, you kind of have an old soul,
right, because
you're around them. So just, being safe, right, doing the right things, and then just growing up under guys that are, were kind of like OGs or uncles, right, and just, them telling me to do the right thing. Even if they knew something or they were into some things that weren't kosher,
right,
they would always say, go upstairs, something's about to happen, or don't get involved in this. I think it's a little different now.
Absolutely.
But back then I think what I'm saying, I had a lot of elder or older guys, either 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 years older, but they were able to kind of once again steer me in the right direction. So I think with my moms and my parents and all that, and my grandparents, I should say, it was just kind of like discipline, and then kind of just using my time wisely, not wasting it. You know what I mean? So I got those jewels from them.
Got you. Who introduced you to the game, and how old were you when you picked up that rock?
And it's crazy. And my grandmother's still alive. She'll be 96 in thank you, in August.
Wow. She's still over there in Marble Hill section, or? She's
actually not, but like I said, she's 96, so she's assisted living now, doing what I mean, and really enjoying these last years for her. You know what I mean? She's in good health and all that kind of stuff, but isn't able to get around like she used to. You know what I mean? So just put in a different situation. But she took me to, and I don't know if you're familiar with off of Bailey Avenue, but 122 PS 122 Park. Mm-hmm. That was my first introduction. Her taking me over there in the summertime. I was probably 3 or 4 years old. Going over there, that's when they used to have free lunch in the summertime. So we used to go over there, and she used to, obviously we used to get the food and everything like that. But she was the first one that actually put a basketball in my hands and was outside, like, rebounding and passing and shooting and stuff like that. Probably about 3 or 4 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy. Grandma.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. With your father being an accomplished player, as you were growing up, did you ever feel any pressure to fill his shoes, or would he ever put any type of pressure on you to fulfill?
I think for me, the pressure, because like I said, we're from the same neighborhood, right? So you got older guys that were his friends, and still kind of in the neighborhood. So it was, although they looked after me, they looked out for me, it was always basketball wise, oh, you're not better than your dad. So I heard that so many times. I wish I had $1 for every time I heard that, right? But he was accomplished, he did his thing, and I think him getting drafted, obviously that added a lot of fuel to his story. So me coming up, it was like extra, you know what I mean? And just like I said, being from that neighborhood, I had to hear it constantly. It wasn't like once in a while, it was like every day. I look like him, I walk like him, but I'm not as good as him, right? So it's one of those things. So that was kind of like what was put on me early. And when I got old enough, probably 13, 14, I started to come into my own. But you know what I mean, I just tried to create and steer my own path, because I knew I wasn't going to be like my dad or my dad. You know what I mean? I had to kind of be Jarrett Lockhart. So
gotcha. So like that didn't really like phase you or nothing, hearing that all the time, or you didn't like feel like I gotta fulfill that. Like it was more so, man, I gotta be Jarrett. Like,
I gotta be me. I think at first, like I said, like when I was younger,
impressionable.
Impressionable, because I would look at it like, damn, like, you know what I mean. But everybody doesn't know you. They're not really, with you on a daily basis. They don't know your story. They just know your dad, and then there's you. You know what I mean? They don't know the actual story. So, I think for me it was more like just trying to come into my own and realize, like I said, like I wasn't gonna be my pop. So I had to, kind of figure out who and what kind of ball player, obviously, and then what kind of, young man, eventual man, person I was gonna be. So, I had to do it. I had to do it for me. But it was. I look at it now and it was motivation, right? Because it's like, all right, well, I got something to shoot for. So that was my thing. I didn't see it as that necessarily then, but looking back, obviously if you have somebody that set the bar, it's a place you want to get to. It was, it definitely was a motivating factor.
Got you. Now, as you're going through elementary, middle school, who would have like an impact on your game, or who would provide some instruction to help you like get? Because obviously you got early notoriety and whatnot. So were you getting any help getting your game crafted together, or were you just out in the park freestyling, getting it together?
Man, you know what? I think it was a little both. Like I said, growing up, you know how I did, and it's funny because, like I said, it's years ago, but like I was the kid that was outside at 6 in the morning in the projects waking people up, and people were like, "Yo, shut that basketball, get that basketball out." Like, so, you know, I was that kid. So that was me outside just trying to figure out basketball. But I had, like I said, you know, my dad was, you know, in Switzerland still and still in Europe, but his agent, when he made that transition from college to pro, became like a really close family friend. Arnie Jacobs, God bless the dead, and that became my godfather.
Okay.
Arnie Jacobs was a instrumental piece for Round Ball Enterprises back in the days, which was a sports agency. So Mark Jackson, Walter Berry, if you go and do your history, and you know, not you, but I'm just saying in general, if you go and do the history of it, they had a lot of NBA guys, a lot of college guys back in the days. And Arnie used to just, you know, always be around those guys. So I was able to see firsthand, like, you know, college runs, pro runs, just sit there and watch, right? But take it in and see how pros moved around, you know, what it took to get from high school to college, you know, things of that nature. So that experience from, you know, I can't even tell you when, you know, I started to kind of be around that, man, probably even before 10 years old, you know, maybe 7, 8 years old, me seeing that and being around that was just like, you know, I could probably write a book on just that period, you know what I mean, because it was so many guys coming in the gym, and back then they had like summer runs. It was just open to, you know, the best high school, college, and pro players, and they used to have them downtown at these different facilities. But I was able to kind of see, because Arnie was kind of recruiting, and they were bringing people into Round Ball Enterprises and signing guys and stuff like that. So it was a unique experience in itself, because the basketball piece was one thing, but you know, guys, you know, just seeing how, you know, guys getting drafted, you know, guys pulling up in all type of, you know, crazy cars and stuff like that. So seeing both sides of the sports and the business.
What would it do
crazy
for your mind? Speaking of that, like, what would it do for your mind? What would it feed you, being able to be a spectator to all of that at such an early age?
Yeah, no, it was crazy. Like I think at first it's like, you're like, wow, you know what I mean? Because this is stuff that, you know, other kids are dreaming of being around and seeing and stuff like that. So even when I used to bring some of my guys with me and you know, my friends and stuff like that, they used to be like, damn, this is crazy. Because once again, you're dealing with a time of, you know, when the Knicks were really, you know, they're good now, but like, you know, really good. You know, like I said, Mark Jackson, Bar Strickland, these guys, all the New York City legends.
Right.
And, guys that's just coming around, and you're seeing these guys, and it's like, wow, you know, Pearl Washington, excuse me, you know, guys like that. And I'm a little guy.
Dudes like superheroes.
Yeah. So, but I mean, like I said, as I got older, you know, obviously I started to appreciate it, and then it started to make sense. Like, okay, this is what guys have to do. This is, you know, guys aren't necessarily eating all this fast food. They're taking care of their bodies. They're in the weight, you know, back then they were just starting to get into the weight room. So, you know, just different little tidbits I took with me, and then by the time I got to high school, you know, I kind of figured out it was all about the work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, these guys are really working too, because I'm seeing the workouts, right? And I'm seeing the runs, and I'm like, damn, that's why these guys are getting drafted. That's why these guys are on TV. You know, stuff like that. And I think that was my main thing back then. I was like, man, I want to play on TV. Yeah. You know, and then like going to my first game at like MSG or something like that. I want to play here. You know, so just different little experiences. You know, obviously I stayed humble, right? But just seeing it, I was just like, damn, I'm privileged to be around all this. But I didn't necessarily appreciate it until I got older. You know what I mean? Because I was in it. But it was definitely a crazy experience.